Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am known as Kay the Bookworm. If you're listening to the podcast, welcome back to Kay the Bookworm, the podcast. So as you could tell, my guest is right here. I'm super nervous, for one, because when I asked her to join me, I was not expecting her to say yes. That's for instance, that's one. But if you guys don't know who this is the GOAT, the icon, Miss Christina C Jones. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain much.
That's good. So I found Christina C. Jones during the pandemic, where I kind of found majority of all of my Black indie authors through my dog Tiffany. So my friend Tiffany is a huge fan of yours. She actually introduced me to you because I had no idea who you were before then. And the first book that I read by you was The Innovation of the Rose. I actually
Hey.
read this in a book club. I think it was, I can't remember what book club it was, but I think I read it in the book club. I think this is like the main one. So I read this, fell in love with it, and then I kind of just gathered you correctly. So I have this
From
one,
there.
and then I have The Rose I Got Away, and then The Unbroken Rose. So I have the Thorn and Rose
My
series.
babies.
I have Wonder. I
Oh,
have
my other baby. They're all my babies. I don't
yes,
know why
Ladies
I'm
Night,
acting
the
like
collection. Something Like Love, which we definitely will be talking about for sure.
okay.
And then my favorite, because this is my favorite, because I love football, that could be why. Your Connecticut King series with Love Beeling. So I read Love on the Highlight Reel, Determinate Possession. I just got done reading Passing in France last night, and I'm about to start
Uh,
against this
Nate
first
and
one.
Sloan.
So, first question is, how did you get started, and why did you get started?
um, Honestly, when I first started writing, it was never really with the intention of it becoming a career. Um, Writing was something that had always kind of been a hobby of mine, but then I was pregnant with my second daughter, and I was very sick, and I needed something to kind of, I guess, ground myself in reality because I was really sick, like to the point of not being able to function.
Oh wow.
But I had, a small child, and I was pregnant, and I needed something to kind of, I say ground me in reality, but really more than that, it was really taking me, into other worlds and taking me into a different reality, I guess. And I found community, I guess, with friends that I had at that time who I have been, I used to be a mommy blogger. And one of my friends who I met through that, she wrote too. And so she and I would write together. And then I found this group of women, and we all kind of formed like this little writing group. Nicole Falls is one
Shout
of
out to
those women who
Nicole.
you may be familiar with.
Yes, I know Nicole.
Um, yeah, but we all kind of came together, and we all had these different goals and just these different places where we were with our writing. And it was a good environment to be in because it kind of kept me connected to it. And it first put the idea in my head of, wait a minute, maybe this is actually something I could really do, like I could really pursue. And I never pursued like traditional publishing, especially not at that time. I will say never, because it could be argued that I did, but that came later. At the time, it was just more about, okay, can I finish a project or not? And then once I discovered, like, okay, yes, I can finish a project. Now, what am I going to do with it? And through research and asking people, talking to people, I discovered Kindle Direct Publishing. And I never thought anybody beyond like maybe a few of the people who followed me, because like I said, I was a mommy blogger. And I thought that maybe some of those people would be interested in reading. And they did read it, and they liked it, and they actually, told people about it and shared it on social media, and things just kind of went from there. And I I haven't turned back since then. To go back to my mention of, it could be argued that I pursued traditional publishing. There was a point where I entered like a pitch contest for Harlequin, and I was, I guess, chosen. I don't know what the proper framing of it would be, because I call it a contest, but there wasn't a winner.
Yeah.
You got to take your pitch further or you didn't. Like, it wasn't like a first place or anything like that. And I was chosen to take my pitch further, and nothing ended up coming of it. And I could have let that be the end of it, but it was really kind of the first experience that really cemented for me that wasn't that traditional publishing was not the path for me. It was probably never going to be the path for me. And it's like 7 years ago at this point. So this was a while. This was a while ago. But like I said, I published that first project, and then I just haven't looked back. I've just been moving since then.
Wow, that's gorgeous. Oh, I don't even know what to say, because every time if somebody does mention Black indie, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is you. So like when I mean you're the GOAT, I mean like you're like the GOAT. That's like, I mean that sincerely.
I appreciate it, because a lot of times, and I think this is probably true for most creatives, like you get in these modes where you're just working, you're just grinding, and it's not really about stopping to really consider what you've done. It's always kind of pressing forward and moving on, and what's next, and what's kind of the next what's the next mountain to climb, what's the next, what's the next thing to hit, what's the next thing to try, what's the next thing to to figure out. And so a lot of times you don't really get to stop and smell the flowers, I guess.
So let's get into these books, because I have some questions for you. So we're going to start off with the first book that I read, The Renovation of the Rose and Thorn series. I do have two questions. One, I do love the book. I will say this was a very slow burn book.
Yes.
I do not read slow burns, but once it picked up, I could not put this down. So excellent. And then I listened to this book on your YouTube channel. By the way, guys, she does have a YouTube channel. So I listened to this one, didn't really read it, listened to it. And then I read this one on my Kindle, and then I actually bought the book. So my question to you is, what made you do like a assassin type of series? And are we going to get a Thorns series soon?
Okay, so I'll answer the second question first. I was actually very recently presented with the opportunity. Well, I guess I presented myself with the opportunity to, say, okay, I know that I want to write more in this series. Am I going to, am I going to tell it from the perspective of a thorn, or am I going to tell it from the perspective of the rose? And I did ultimately end up deciding to continue with the roses, but that's not to say that I'll never make that shift. Just that probably the next couple of projects that I do in that series will probably focus on the rose, but both of their heroes are thorns. Like, it's not an outside person, which I guess the second two books in that series, I think Tristan is the only the only hero in that series that wasn't a thorn. So I guess that wouldn't necessarily be a change. But these other two books that I have in mind, the vibe is very different. The vibe is more dark romance. The vibe is like a grittier vibe. And then as far as what made me want to write this is very relevant to my interests, like all type of assassin stuff and actiony type of stuff, like anything with that Equalizer, John Wick. Those are just the two that immediately popped to mind. But anything with that type of vibe, that's exactly my jam. That's exactly the type of stuff that I like to watch on TV. Those are the kind of movies that I like to watch. I actually don't watch a lot of, like, I guess, sweet,
Movies.
a lot of sweet movies and stuff
Yeah.
like that is really not that they're not good. Like, that's just, I have an attention problem. And so I need, like, action and stuff
Yeah.
on screen. I need either action or, if it's funny, like, I can, like, I just started watching Ted Lasso last night. And it's like a funny series. And so that can keep my attention. Whereas, something else maybe wouldn't be able to. But back to the point. You see the attention problem. Back to the point. That's just it's a genre that I really love. I like the idea of, these badass women who are presented with this opportunity to become something that they were never supposed to be, because they were literally brainwashed to be used in whatever way. But they're taking that brainwashing and all these different things that they've been through, these different skills that they have been taught that were not for their good, they were for someone else's good, but they're switching things up and turning it into something else and really changing their lives. And I love the idea of that.
Definitely reminded me of actually watching Black Widow. It reminded me of that. A little bit of Natasha Romanoff, Marvels.
Oh, see, my mind immediately went to TV.
Yeah, so it kind of definitely reminded me of Black Widow, because she was trained to be, brainwashed to assassin, and actually,
okay,
the movie, it kind of reminded me of your books. So kudos to you.
Make sure you're a candidate.
Yeah,
it just popped in my mind. That's another one.
Cool. Yeah, so like I say, these books, just, I think out of reading these three, I have to say this one is my favorite, because Tempest was a badass.
Yes.
She did not, like, from like the first time you meet her, she was still in that like mindset of when she was at the cafe, and she was just kind of like observing people, and the dude came up to her, she was just like, "You're gonna get the fuck away from me, I'll beat your ass."
Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, so she was very, 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 very badass, independent. And then when you get to know Tristan and get to see all his drama with his baby mama and stuff like that, she was just like, "Listen, I'm not dealing with this. Either you fix it or we don't be together, one of the two." So
and what did he do? He fixed
it. He showed it. So let's get into Connecticut Kings. I'm gonna go with the one I just recently read. Fast Interference. There's a scene in the book where, if you haven't read it, I'm sorry, it's gonna be spoilers. There's a scene in the book where Nate is talking to Garrett. And I think he just found out about him and my name is Sloan. And Nate comes in and just like, "Listen, I'm not going anywhere. This is my woman. I don't give a fuck if you're old. If you're old,
deal with it."
I read that. I was like, okay, Nate. I'm like, yes. I was like, yes, Nate. And then the fact that he stood up to his father, he was like, "Listen, I'm not like, you could fire her, but I'm still gonna be by her side, even though I think it's bullshit be firing her by her side." But then you really know like the true meaning of why he said what he said, especially when he got upset about him going his own way. I was with him. I was upset, like, "Oh, you got cancer, woohoo." At the same time, it's just like you really see a lot of parents, especially like more so white than black, that when they have this legacy, and when like the kid is just like, "I'm grateful for the legacy, but I want to go my own way," instead of the parent being like, encouraging them, they get upset. So I love the fact that you brought that to light, because a lot of people, especially like I said, you don't really see it in the black community like that, but especially in the white one. So the fact that you kind of flipped it is just amazing. So what made you have Nate mess with Sloan?
When I was because Nate is introduced because he's the heroine in book one. That's they're twins.
Yeah.
And when I was writing him, it always felt to me like I just got that vibe from him. And I don't know how else to, I don't know how else to articulate it, but I felt like he would be the type that would need a very specific type of woman. And I felt like he needed someone who was very grounded. And not that he couldn't have handled, a woman like, I want to say like Cole, but that's his sister, and so it's weird to make it's weird to make that comparison. But what I mean is a very business oriented type of woman who is, figuring out what she wants for her family and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think he could have handled someone like that, but with him not really being into kids himself and him kind of going through this transition period where he's figuring out what he wants to do with his career and all of that, I feel like he needed someone who was already very settled and very grounded in that. And Sloan was that. And for with Sloan, like when she came to me, it was always like, okay, she's a baddie. She may be mature or quote unquote mature, she has an almost adult child and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that don't mean she's not hot. And just because she's a football coach, like none of this has anything to do with her, like her being a woman and these things like her femininity and her sensuality and sexuality and all of that. And even her health scares that she goes through. None of that diminishes any of these other parts. Like they're all parts that make up a whole, but none of that diminishes anything. And I felt like she needed, someone who, I was about to say that I felt like she needed someone who was still kind of figuring it out, because that wasn't a challenge to her, because he's still figuring his stuff out. Whereas someone who already had his things figured out might try to change her.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a benefit, for her, that Nate is trying to figure his own life out. He's not interested in trying to make me make these certain shifts and these certain changes and trying to, make me go, be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen or whatever. Like Garrett probably would have wanted her to be if she had, if she had taken him back. But I think that they complemented each other really well, even though, there comes a point with Sloan where she does kind of feel those effects of the health scare, and she's concerned that her life might be a little too settled for him. And he makes it clear to her, like, nah, you let me worry about that. Like, I want you, and
I'll get you, and you did. You did.
Right, and that's what it is.
I love the fact that you put in the scene with him and Madison. Then they have that little bond. I love that
moment.
Yeah, I thought that was super cute. Definitely you got to see more of, even though you do get to see Nate and Cole, their relationship in Love on a Highlight Reel, but that relationship is kind of more like a competitive thing. So now that when you go into Pass Interference, you get to see exactly like, all right, even though we're twins, I love you like a brother. You're my brother. Like, I want you to succeed and this and that. So, but Garrett got on my nerves.
Yes.
Especially when he ratted out his ex-wife. I'm like, why are you that upset? You're the one that caused the divorce because you cheated on her.
Just messy.
I was just like, get it together. Like, my God. But I love that book. It was really, really cute. I love the scenes in the book, sex scenes, the talkative scenes. I don't like the fact that Sloan pushed Nate to Lila, but I understood why. Yeah. But at the same time, I was just like, in my mind, I was like, why are you doing this when you know you like that boy? Why are you doing this when you know you like him? Why?
She did, and she needed to relax. She needed to relax.
Because there's some scenes I was just like, you need to relax. But I will say, Sloan, not only was she a baddie, but she was a badass. Because even though she was the only female coach, she did not let anything stop
at
her.
Any point.
When she got into what is his name? Amir? I think it's Amir.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right? His ass first day. Hilarious. I was cracking up.
It's almost not that Rhett was a bully, because I actually like Rhett. I actually like Rhett. He's very rough around the edges.
I liked him like towards the end of the book.
Yeah. Like once you kind of get to know him more, he's very rough around the edges, but it's kind of one of those things like, with a bully where you kind of have to go in and you have to make your presence known, because if you don't, they're going to run all over you. It's like she had to kind of make a point early to make sure that it's like, okay, I see you, but you don't see me too. Exactly. Like we're going to make this and we're going to be okay.
That, and then when she made Terrence pass out, I thought that shit was hilarious. I feel bad.
We really abuse him throughout the series. Like whenever we need somebody to just like be doing something stupid, we use Terrence.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's get into Love on a Highlight Reel. I'm going to say this now. My book that I'm currently writing is highly influenced by Love on a Highlight Reel, for sure. So I love Cole.
Oh, Flash.
I love him. Oh my God, I love him today. It's one of those things, it's just like what could have been type situation, even though they got together, but it's like if they would have lasted throughout college
the whole time,
what would have happened? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I loved it. And then I got your email and I read the you had the shorts, so I'm just on there because I had nothing to do at work, and I saw the little update. I was like, this is even cute.
Oh, for them. I actually forgot that they had one. They do have a short on there.
Have a short. It is just so cute. This is like, I was upset with Jordan because I felt as if Jordan, to me, especially in pass interference, was one of those players that was just like, I'm hurt, but I don't want to be done with football. It reminded me of the scene in Any Given Sunday where the quarterback played by I forgot his name that fast, but he's the quarterback, and he was hurt. His shoulder was hurt, and basically he was just like telling the doctors how like he could play. He had to tell the head coach that he could play, even though the head coach is just like, don't think you can. And he's at the point where like he wanted to retire, and his wife basically was kind of like pushing him to be like, no, like you play. And then the part was just like, no, like I'm done. Like this is no point. So I felt as if seeing like reading that and then like kind of like seeing that scene in my head, if I kind of the roles were reversed. It was like Cole was like him, and then Jordan was the wife. What made you like have like what came up with like I can't even talk right now because I'm just Jordan and Cole. What made you come up with them?
So when I first started writing highlight reel, it was supposed to be enemies to lovers. It was always going to be enemies to lovers. I had no idea that it was second chance. Like when I first started writing, like that, it never occurred to me. It was always, Cole is, she's this woman in this male dominated field, and then you have Jordan, who's like the almost stereotypical kind of jerk athlete, and he's fine and he just thinks he can do what he wants to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as I started writing them, and as I kind of saw more and more of their dynamic playing in my head, it was just like, I feel like I'm missing something. But I, just kept writing, And then this is before my back injury, and I would go running in the mornings. And Rihanna, she has a song called Needed Me. And that song came on my shuffle one day. And I think that I had never even heard the song before, but it came on my shuffle, and I was listening to those lyrics, and the lyrics it's not like the lyrics are like a one-to-one match or anything like that. But you know how stuff will start in your head, and then, your brain just takes it and runs with it. And it just clicked for me. They used to be together. Like, that's why she's so bothered by him. she's so bothered
She
by
was
him
so, she
because
was so bothered.
she was so bothered by him. And she was so bothered by him, not only because they used to be together, but because she was the one, like, she was the one who did him wrong.
Yeah.
She, like, he didn't do anything wrong. It was her. You know, and that's why once they did get back together, like, she was guilty. You know, she felt bad for what she did, even though I don't, you know, they were kids. I don't think what she did was, you know, it wasn't great, but it's not like she had done something just
Yeah,
like
I think by
terrible,
that time,
terrible.
I think Jordan was over it because he still loved her.
Yeah.
He still loved
Yep.
her.
Exactly. Exactly. And them being able to come to that place, like come back to that place of understanding, and her being able to really like be on his side. Like, she was already on his side because it was her job, and she had to be on her side because, you know, she works for the team. This is what it is. But just that subtle difference, you know, and her being on his side in a different way, like her being on his side because she loves him, because that's her boo. You know, like, it was just a whole different thing. And I really like that they were a very different sort of couple for me, because this was my first time writing with Love Belvin. Like, that was the start of the collaboration, and Love and I are like good friends, like good, like I texted with her all morning, like we're for real friends. And for as many things as we have in common, I don't feel like our writing is similar, but because like, and I'm kind of like more like warm and fuzzy, and she's like, you know, grown up stuff. And so when we decided to collab, it was like, all right, Christina, you can't come with this, you know,
WW crap. I need you.
You can't come with this warm and fuzzy stuff. And she did not say that to me. This was me saying it to myself. Like,
wow.
All right, sis, like, you gotta, you know, you're about to be, you're gonna be listed beside Love Belvin in this. Like, you need to come harder. You need to really bring it. And so I felt like I really dug into the characters in a way that I hadn't before. Love on the Highlight Reel is still like today, even though that was like 5 years ago. It came out in 2015, so it's actually 6 years ago. It's one of my longest titles to date.
Wow.
Because I don't like writing long, but when the story calls for it, you know, I always give the story what, you know, what it gives me. And that was just one of those titles. And I feel like Jordan and Cole definitely gave me plenty. Like, they gave me all the layers.
They did. Just everything about the book I truly loved. Let's go into Determining Possession.
Okay.
Will and Ramsey.
Will and Ramsey.
Let me just say this now. That opening scene. Girl. I opened it in my book. I opened my Kindle, read. I was like, what the hell am I reading? Like, why is she using baseball clubs and putting it on live? I said, okay, I got you.
She mad.
I understand. I understood why she was upset. I understood. Oh my gosh, I love how you put them together, for one. Love that.
They were not supposed to. That was not supposed to be a friends to lovers story.
Are you serious?
It was supposed to be enemies to lovers.
What?
That's like when that idea first came to my head, it was supposed to be enemies to lovers, because the idea actually came to mind pretty shortly after Love on the Highlight Reel, but we weren't going to write another book in the series again until the next year. And so I just sat on it. And by the time it came time to actually write it, that just didn't feel right anymore. And I'm glad that I didn't try to force that. I'm glad that I didn't try to force that, because what it ended up being, this friends to lovers instead, it's like my brain almost doesn't even want to connect with, you know, what that original storyline was, because it doesn't even feel right anymore. Like what they are, like them being, you know, good friends, and then that becoming like this beautiful love story. Like there's no other way it could have actually happened.
Yeah, I couldn't see them as enemy to lover anyway, because she was like, they were so supportive of each other.
Yeah.
I have so many scenes with Ramsey, you know, trying out for the Kings and making the team, to Will trying to, like, you know, better herself when it came to relationship wise, especially when Ramsey
found with her planner.
Yes, found the planner. And I was just like, you know, me not being engaged or not even talking to anybody, or, you know, even married, of course, I felt for her because the fact that she had to plan to do that, and then he still cheated on her. I was just like, what are you doing?
Yep.
I was like, oh, my heart went out to her on that scene. I didn't like the fact that you had to blast him out like that. But I realized stuff happens. So it's kind of like, that's kind of normal in the real, like, in the, you know, in the real world, when you're trying to like be very incognito. You know, cameras are everywhere, especially when you're too big time for celebrities like that. But I don't know, like, I haven't read Offense Formation, just haven't read that yet. Hopefully I'll probably once I get done with my book. But I just want to say, the way you put love in football, especially the football part in it, made me want to go so much harder on my book, because I appreciate that. I'm glad that it made me want to go so much harder. I was watching Hard Knocks today because I'm at the scene now where my characters are going. My main character, my hero, he is a running back like Ramsey, so he is going into training camp. So I was just like, gotcha. I love football, but what can I do to make it seem, you know, make it realistic? So I was watching Hard Knocks Cowboys. And anybody who knows me knows I'm not a Cowboy fan. I do not like the Cowboys. But you made that sacrifice. But I made a sacrifice. And I to watch it, get some mental notes in my head. It was like, all right, so this is what they do at training camp. I already knew about the talent show towards the end. I already got that settled. But I needed to know exactly what they do at training camp. So I had that in my head. I was like, all right, so this is what they do. They come to the office. If they get cut, cool. If they don't get cut, this is what they do. This is that. So I had to really like mentally prepare myself to be like, you're just watching this for research. You're just watching this for research. You're not doing this because you like the Cowboys. You're watching this for research. My brother came in my room because he was helping me move some stuff. He was just like, "You Cowboys?" He was like, I was like, "I'm doing this for research." He was like, "What type of research are you doing that you have to watch the Cowboys?" I was like, "I'm doing this for research. Just hush, hush." So I love the fact that you put definitely, like, you know, how they had training camp, how they had OTAs. I love the fact that you know, you did the mini camp and how they, you know, were living. Also, kudos to you for sure for that, because that made me want to be like, all right, I just can't say they're at mini camp and then like 2 months later, no, I need to like expand exactly where they're doing at mini camp, this and that. So I'll give you a little background for my book, because I didn't last one. My book is kind of like a second chance. You could kind of say enemy to lover, because my hero broke up with my heroine when they were together freshman and sophomore year. They broke up because of the hero's father. Is the reason why he got kicked out of the university, but is the reason why because of his father. And then 2 years later, when the draft opened, my book opens with the draft, and come to find out that the heroine's father, who is the owner and the owner and the president of my football team, her father picked her ex-boyfriend to be on the team. Ooh. And they haven't seen each other in 2 years since the breakup. That's rough. I like it. and then add insult to injury, her ex-boyfriend, or her ex-fiance, I should say, is a football coach on the team, who just so happens to be her ex-boyfriend's coach. So, if I was her, you cannot pay me to go anywhere near that football team. So I'm gonna just be over here. Yeah, so she's dealing with the aftermath of her ex-fiance. Well, I could say, because they were supposed to get married, but he cheated on her. So her ex-boyfriend cheating on her, and then seeing her forever lover that she, you know, hasn't first love in 2 years. So that's my little gist of my little world that I'm creating right now. You got a lot to work with. I do. I have a lot to work with, and I'm not near so done. I think I'm at like 44. Because apparently what I had in my mind was somebody died, and then as I was typing, the character came back and was like, "You are not going to kill me." So I basically had to go back. So I had to go back and kind of rewrite everything, not cut a lot off, but kind of rewrite everything so it could flow a little better. So now that it's flowing a lot better, I'm like, God, so I can get it done. So we're going to get into your recent book that came out. I did pre-order my book, even though I got the art copy. So I appreciate you giving me, exclusive of your copy. So to say that was
not a problem.
To say it was just your first time ever doing an arc, I was shocked about it because I legit thought you did like arcs to like a lot of people before. So the fact that I got in, I was like, it is lit. But
look, I posted that and then deleted it real quick.
You posted it, I was just like, I got nothing else to do to work. And so you wrote me back and said I got it. I was like, again. But Prior Affair. Let me just say, I have never read Equivalent before in my life. Never read it, but it made me want to go back and read it. Like I said in my review, if you didn't, it's on I believe it's on my personal, which is Renee _. I love the fact that you added the historical fiction with the romance. I really don't do a lot of historical fiction, but the fact that you added it with the love, I loved it. It definitely reminded me of The Photograph.
And see, that's why when I saw that in your review, like that's why I was like, I'm gonna have to start watching something other than action movies.
It definitely reminded me of The
Photograph. I didn't have like a frame of reference for it.
Basically, Issa Rae, mother, and the dude that you get to see in the first beginning of the movie that was interviewed with the Keith Stanfield, they were together for a long period of time, but the mother kind of was a photographer and she was like kind of over like living in like the country, so she wanted to expand.
She wanted to explore.
Yeah, she wanted to explore, but he was so content about where he was that she left, not knowing she was pregnant with Issa Rae at the time. So when she came back to her funeral, to her mom's funeral, she realized that the person that she was in love with, which was Issa Rae's father, already moved on. He already moved on and already had a baby, this and that. So there's some scenes, like especially the flashbacks, definitely reminding me of The Photograph. I loved it. I love Haley Ellis. I love how you kind of did like the whole 360. That was dope. I was not expecting that.
Me either. There's another one where when I started it was like I was talking to Nicole and I was like, I want to do something, just kind of light and fun and sexy, like, okay, what if it's a firefighter? Because I've been wanting to do a first responder series. Like that's something that's been on my mind for a while. It was actually potentially one of the options when Love and I first decided we were going to collab. Like that was, sports romance or first responders. First responders was actually one of those options. I've been wanting to write first responders for a while. And so I was like, okay, maybe I could do something in Blackwood. I haven't done anything that takes place in Blackwood in a while. And so it was like, okay, we'll do the first responders. Okay, so what's the heroine going to be doing? And, like it was supposed to be just straight contemporary, something hot. She's gonna find this hot firefighter and she's rebuilding a historic home. The home wasn't even supposed to be like her family home or anything like that. It was just supposed to be she moved into a historic home. Something happens and he like helps her rebuild the house is what it was, is what it was supposed to be. And then I started writing. And when I first started writing, I ended up scrapping that. And then my brain was like, what if you start with fire? He's a firefighter. What if you start with fire? And so I went there, and just as I started writing, that was when it was like, okay, you have this fire. Why does she care so much about saving the house? She cares so much about saving the house because that's her family home. It's not just some
random house.
It's not just some house that she bought. Like this house has historical meaning to her. And then from there, it was just like layering stuff in. And so much of it was, like I said, stuff that I did not know and wasn't expecting. And because even once it was going to be her familiar home, the deja vu element and stuff like that, that wasn't going to be, because the title wasn't even going to be Prior Affair. The original title was like Casual Acquaintance, or there was I had a couple of different options for the title, but I didn't land on Prior Affair until after I knew what, like once I had kind of figured out what the storyline was, that was when I landed on the title. Like I rarely have a title for books before usually by like the second or third chapter, but rarely before I start writing it. Because I don't be knowing what's gonna happen.
Yeah, same here with me. Same here with me. That book was just it was so sweet. And I love the fact that Haley was like this is what I want you to do. And this is what you want to do type person. Ellis was more so, Ellis was very kind of like go with the flow until it got to that point when Haley and the lady kind of got it. And that, I can't lie, I was on Haley's side for a minute. I can't lie and say I wasn't, because he should have told her.
Ellis was wrong. He was just wrong. And he was going to act like he wasn't wrong, because that's what men do. He was going to act like he wasn't wrong, act like he didn't know what she was talking about, until he realized, okay, that's not going to work on her. Because she was like, no, I'm right. And how about we just don't do this anymore? And he was like, wait, hold up.
Reminded me of Gina and Martin when Regina's about to walk up. Oh,
but yeah, he was definitely wrong. He was definitely wrong. He should have told her. He should have told her. And Haley didn't flip out. It's not like she flipped out. She was very, it's not like she
was just like,
yeah,
you had a past before me, which is totally fine. I don't care. But if I'm going to be working closely with this person, you need to tell me what's going on. Like, I thought that's it, communication. And it seemed like it seemed like, since he was so adamant about his parents' relationship and how they are, communication for sure for that, like communication. Yeah. Now Haley's mama. I understood what the grandma was doing, which in my mind, that is totally, it was like, I wasn't expecting that from the grandma. I was like, okay, grandma, I see you. But at the same time, it's just like, I understood what the mom was coming from in a sense. When it came to reputation of the family. I got that part. But at the same time, it was more so like Haley was trying to explain, this is my history. Yeah. Like, this is like, you wonder why I act the way I do, because I'm just an image of her. So you can't get mad at me for doing things that my grandma did back then. Yeah. So,
and it's like you said, you can almost understand, the desire to protect the reputation of the family, and then the fact that they have this business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's almost like you have to decide, like, what's going to be more important to you, holding on to this, illusion of what the family is, or the mental health of your child. And I think that's a tough balance, especially in our community. I feel like that's a really tough balance. Like, I even see it, myself, like with my own parenting. Like, I have to constantly check myself, like, yes, this is the way we've always done it. This is what we're supposed to do. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care. These little girls aren't going to be in therapy for the same stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
They probably going to need it for one thing or another, but it's not going to be for this same stuff. Like, we're going to break some generational curses, and we're going to break some patterns down here. And I think that Haley's mother was so damaged by her own mother that it made it hard for her, because it's like she could see it. Like, once, like, it didn't take much for her to back off Haley. Like now that Haley is an adult and she's, you know, moved on to doing, you know, she's like, it's not like she's relying on help from her parents or this or that. Like she is successful in her own right, and she's making these moves, and she's done everything that she's quote unquote supposed to do, except, you know, what everybody thinks every woman is supposed to do, you know, the
Kids,
husband and
married
kids,
and all that other
like
stuff.
she's already, and it's like her mom wasn't even necessarily tripping too much on that. And it was almost like, I feel like her mom was glad that all of that happened. I feel like I don't know. I feel like she did know it was going to happen. Like there's one point where Haley tells her, like, you had to know I was going to figure this out. You had to know that I was going to find this out, because she know, like, have you met Haley? Like, come on. This, like, she's a journalist. Like, that's what she does. That's what she is. She's going to find this out. And it's almost at the back of my mind that that's why her mother pushed her against it so hard, because she knows that Haley is stubborn, and she knew that the harder she pushed against it,
she was going to find
that it was just going to push her towards it.
Yeah, just like this, the diner scene when she was saying, like, this is our history. I understand that you wanted to burn because of your mother, but like, don't put your trauma on me.
Yep.
And the fact that, you know, she kept saying about like her, like, you're just like your father, and this and this and that.
Yeah, that was a sore spot.
You always loved my father, though. It was because of you and your mother. It was because of you and your mother that you pushed him away.
Yeah, and I think that's why that's why it bothered her so much that Haley was so much like him, because that was her great love that got away, and now he's gone, and they never got a chance to go back to that. But she has this reminder, Haley, who is, you know, who's constantly keeping him, you know, constantly keeping that memory of him, like, right there in her face.
And then you also see too that Haley's mom is the constant reminder of, you know, her mom's past lover. So it's just like that right there alone is a generational curse that goes down and down and down that Haley was trying to break. So I don't know. It's like it definitely had like a lot of themes in it, but I think for sure it definitely was generational curse and it needs to be broken.
Yeah.
Because especially when Haley's mom was just like, so I had to find out through the newspaper that her house burned down. And she's like, well, you didn't care if it burned down or anyway. Like, you didn't want me to go here anyways. What's the
yeah, like, why did you care? Yeah.
Exactly. Why are you upset about it now? So, the excellent book.
Thank you.
For real, high five. But I'm glad you brought up Blackwood, because I DM'd you. I DM'd you quite a lot of times. But I DM'd you about the Heights first. Because I wanted to create a town for my own stories. I have two, Jones Hills, North Carolina, and Amethyst Falls. It was in Alabama, now it's in Tennessee. I definitely wanted to make my own story, like make my own universe, like how you did yours. And when you told me that you typed as you wrote when it came to the locations, I was so shocked. So what made you want to do your own universe? Because when you think of the Heights, when you think of Blackwood, you automatically think of CCJ, nobody else. So what made you want to go that route?
More than anything, it was just because I wanted to be able to create the places that exist within the city. Like, I wanted to be able to create urban grind, which I never would have named urban grind. Like, I have a policy that I don't Google this stuff because I have a hard time coming up with names of stuff. And so I don't look it up first, like, because if I look it up and I find something that's there, now I'm paralyzed and I'm never going to be able to come up with anything else. And so I just was like, let me look up some words that are related to coffee. And I found grind, and it's going to be in the city. So urban grind, boom. It was never supposed to be like a big thing. Like, the name of the coffee shop was always supposed to be like just a throwaway thing. Like, I never knew that it was going to become what it did. But in doing that, I didn't want to put it somewhere. Like, I didn't want to put it, you know, it's going to be set in Dallas, or it's going to be set in New York or Chicago or LA or wherever. Because what I've discovered, when you write specific places, people get hung up on the place, and they won't let the story breathe on.
Yeah.
So, like, if you say, you know, yeah, they went to the beach. Well, there's no beaches in, I don't know. Who has no beaches? I don't even know. Like, but like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there's no beaches close to, you know, Little Rock, Arkansas. Like, I chose somewhere close to me. Like, there's no beaches in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's like, but it's fiction. Who cares if there's really beaches in Little Rock, Arkansas? And so it's like, if I want to write somewhere where there's a beach, I'll just make up my own. And I can, when you make up your own, like, landscape in your own setting, you can do whatever you want with it. And it's like the ultimate playground for your creativity, when you're not confined to, when you don't have that geographical boundary or that geographical barrier. You just write whatever you want to write. And that was really appealing to me. It's still really appealing to me. I still have other places that, you know, that I want to write, other places that I want to create. But now I feel like my brain chemistry has almost changed, because now I want to plan it, but my, you know, the other part of my brain is like, nah, you never had to do that before. Why would you start doing that now? Yeah. But now that I'm trying to be, you know, trying to develop more of the business side of my business, because that's, you know, that's what I have. I have a small business. It makes you want to be more organized about it. But I keep rejecting that. Like, we're just going to go with the flow.
Yes. I wrote myself down. Me and my friend Tiff, shout out to her, because she's also an author. We was like at her house one day, and we was like, you know, we're just gonna write stuff down. So we went on the fantasy generator and typed up coffee shop, boom, boom, boom. Oh, like that name, cool, write it down.
Yep.
And I have it to where now it's like the name, the location, and like the owner of a location. So if I want to go back,
that's wise.
Something like that, I feel like write their story.
Yeah. So that really is wise, because there's so much that I did that is like conflict, or it's so much work to try to make sure that you don't have things conflicting with each other, like the stuff that you wrote down, making sure that this doesn't conflict with that, and making sure that this matches that, and making sure that you didn't already use this name, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot to figure out. And so, yeah, I would definitely, if your brain works like that, where you can, I would definitely put it down ahead of time. Like, still leave room to be flexible, you know, but give yourself some structure. Like, I think it's helpful to give yourself some structure.
So let's hop onto YouTube, because that's how I found you. I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel, guys. If you don't know, she has a YouTube channel where she gives author advice. She gives information towards other authors. She does Let's Write books, because if you do read Prior Affair, if you want to know the background of it, she has the entire playlist of Let's Write a Book. She started from scratch. When she wrote Prior Affair, she came out of nowhere and said that she wanted to write a book that had the same thing as equivalent, and she wrote it, and that's Prior Affair. So what made you want to just I could say vlog your journey, as well as give authors advice? Because I will say your author advice helped me a lot.
Well, I think the vlogging thing, I think that just kind of comes pretty natural back from being a mommy, you know, being a mommy blogger. Because that's initially, you know, kind of what my channel was. Like, if you caught me early enough, all of those videos were still there, and I've marked them all as private now, because I was, you know, trying to, well, let's get everything focused, right? And, you know, because they're very different videos. But talking my way through these different processes and everything, it comes naturally. And I think I started, at first I wasn't confident enough, or not even, it wasn't even confident enough. At first I was like, I'm still learning how to write books. I'm still learning, the business processes and all of that. It's a pet peeve of mine when people present themselves as experts in things that they're not experts in. And so I didn't want to do that. And so I started out just talking about, my work, and I can, talk to people about what I'm writing or what I'm releasing or what I've been working on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then I remembered that when I first started out, when I first started writing, and even still often now, I hated feeling like I didn't have anybody that I could look to. And it's not about having somebody to look up to, but having someone to literally look to, like, okay, this person has done it. This person, this is what their experience was. This is what they went through to get there and all of that. I don't have that person, and I didn't have that person. And I know how that feels. And knowing how it felt, I couldn't not try to give the information that I have, things that I've learned over the years, all of that. There's no reason for me to not share that and make it available to anybody who wants to see it. Like, you don't have to inbox, like, people will inbox me questions and stuff still. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I can just point them to a video already on my page. Like, nobody has to ask me any, like, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine for them to ask me, but you don't even have to ask me, because I know that's a barrier too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, especially, like, I'll have people who'll say, I'm sorry to bother you, but could you, like, you're not bothering me. But I do that all the time. But it's like, you're not bothering me, but because I get it, you don't want to be rejected by someone that you're asking a question to. Like, okay, I'll just make it public information, so that you don't even have to ask. You can just go and get it. And that was important to me, especially thinking about, like I said, like what I would have loved to have as I was trying to navigate. I was going to say the first few years of my career, but again, even still now, I would love, someone, this is year 8 for me. If there's somebody who had been in it for 16, who kind of has the same path that I have, doing it outside of traditional publishing and all of that. I would love that. Like, I would love somebody that I could look to, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I have that. And I want to make sure that nobody that comes after me feels that way.
That is good, beautiful. Because I watched my book flop. Now what? And I cried, but at the same time, I felt so empowered by you that I remember I DM'd you. My first DM by you was like, listen, I just watched it. I was just like, I need help. What did it? And you giving the advice that you gave me still sticks with me. And I just want to say thank you for that. Dude,
not a problem.
I have not stopped writing.
Hey,
I'm still writing. That's what it takes. I have like a lot of open docs in my.
That's okay.
That's a lot of open docs right now, like chapters, and I have not stopped writing. So thank you for sure for that. Because like I said, even though I am a writer right now, I still watch your videos religiously. Nothing changed about that. I just watched the when you said about wanting to make a script.
Oh God, I need to do an update on that.
Which brings me to my next question. I asked Shay Davis this, and I'm gonna ask you this. I know this might be hard because it was hard for her. Out of all the books that you have, audio as well, because we're gonna get into that in a minute. Audio as well. What book, 2 books that you could see as a TV show? Which book can you see as a TV show? And which book can you see as a movie?
Can I do series?
You do series.
For TV show, I would go the High Stakes series, which is Ante Up and Deuces Wild.
Okay.
I just see that, all those different, details, that Vegas setting and all of that, like I feel like that belongs, hour long Showtime or HBO, like to really do it justice. And then for movies, I would say the Love Sisters. I would go rom-com for the movies, but I think those would be really good for, a fun, like, let's go scream, laugh. And yeah. I would want to laugh because I have projects that I think other people would probably rather see in movie format, like Love Notes or Equivalent Exchange, but I don't know that I would care. Like, as a consumer, I don't know that I would care about either of those, in movie format. But something where I could go laugh, or, oh, she about to be shooting people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let's.
Was it easy? It wasn't hard at all for you. Okay.
Well, it's been on my mind.
Okay,
it's been on my mind lately. So.
I would say I am surprised that no one has picked you up yet when it came to TV or movies, because you have so many to choose from. For me, if I had to choose, I would love to see Wonder as a movie. I think Wonder would be dope to do. And if I had to choose TV show, because I love sports, I would love to see the Connecticut King series in one.
That would be cool. That would be cool. And that could go on for a lot of seasons too.
But you could do 8 seasons because it's 8 books, and then each season have, like, the different characters. So that would be for me, because I just love, like I said, I love sports. Huge sports fan. So seeing that, I think that would be dope.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Definitely dope. So let's get into audio. I don't do audiobooks, but I just want to say, you have Wesley and Emmanuel in your back pocket, because I feel as if they, like, every book that you have put in audio, I feel like majority of those audiobooks are from them.
Well,
in my personal opinion, that's what I feel.
When I first started working with them, like when I first decided to commission a dual narration for an Equivalent Exchange, was actually that project. Wesley, I had worked with Wesley before through a production company. She did Anti Up and like a few other things. And so when I decided I wanted to commission something myself, I went to her and I asked her if she wanted to do the project, and she was excited about it. She was on board with it. And I was like, do you know a male narrator? And she was like, yeah, I know somebody. This would be his first book. Is that okay? Like, this would be his first audiobook. Is that okay?
Hold up, his first book?
Yeah, that was Manny's first. Equivalent Exchange was his first. Equivalent Exchange was his first book. Was his first audiobook. And knocked it out of the park, both of them. And so when it came time for me to do something else, hey, y'all, what are y'all doing? And now I can't get on their schedules. So I won't say I can't get on their schedules, but now it's much harder to, it's much harder to get on their schedules now. And so, I've been branching out and, finding or, connecting with different talent. And so you will start seeing some different names. Like, as I put more and more out, you'll start seeing different names. But yeah, they always knock it out of the park, like, consistently.
That was his first book? Wow.
Yeah, he hasn't been narrating very long. Like, I think Equivalent Exchange, I think it was like early 2020. So maybe like a year. Yeah.
Jeez. Because when you think of a male narrator, the first thing that comes to mind is him. Either him or Corey Height.
Between him and Jacoby.
Yeah.
I see it. Corey Height is I've used him. I've used him before as well.
Yeah.
But I think that he is more popular in urban.
Yeah, he is. When I listened to the Cartel series,
Mm-hmm.
He did that series for Ashley Antoinette and Jaquavis Coleman. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I knew his voice. For instance, Wesley, she just did what was it? I think it was the invitation for Ashley Antoinette. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people in the group that I'm in, the reading group I'm in, was just like, who is this? And I was like, this is the freaking goat in the end. What do you mean? Who is this? So I was like, Wesley is the goat in Black Indie. Like, give her a chance. And I was just like, I gave her a chance, don't like her. Cause like, they're so consumed to one person that actually does it.
Yeah,
And which is
definitely.
understandable.
Yeah.
It's totally
Yeah.
understandable. I was just like,
But
I
also
like Wesley, she the
frustrating.
goat, and you need to send
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, but it's also frustrating though, because how do you make room for new voices to come into the industry, for one?
Yeah.
And then for two, it's like, if you want more audio to keep coming out, your favorite narrator can only do so much.
Exactly. You can't expect that one person unless they have a
On
contract.
everything that you like.
To be like, I only want you to do this certain book for me, this and this and this and that. Unless they have like a like a seal contract that says I want
But
this person. But even then,
with
it's still
that,
hard.
it still depends on their schedule.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're buying out, somebody's schedule, which I
Good luck with that.
yeah, good luck with that. But no, Wesley is phenomenal. Wesley is phenomenal. Yeah, Wesley is phenomenal. Ebony is phenomenal. Jillian, I gotta bring Jillian back in. Jillian did my paranormal books for me. Nanny is great. Jacoby is great. I'm trying to think of the other voices. Carrie is great. Those are just the ones that come to mind. I use new voices for relationship goals. Alex Monroe and Miles Washington, both phenomenal talents, especially Miles. He's actually working on something else for me. He's working on something else for me now. And I'm just excited. Like, I like working with talented people, and I like getting to work directly, with these people. Like, no middleman. Like, hey, do you want to work? What does your schedule look like? Oh, you're free here. That
That's
works
perfect.
for me.
Yeah.
Put me down.
So what, like, through everything from your start of your career to now, to the number ones, to getting awards, to being recognized as one of the top people in the black indie world, romance world, did you expect from like the first book that you written, then published, did you expect any of this to go how it is?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like I said, when I first wrote that first project, I only expected like the few people who followed my this is back when we had Google Reader. I don't know if anybody is gonna really remember Google Reader, but it was an RSS feed subscription service where you could sign up to people's RSS feeds for their blogs. And I just thought those people were gonna, like, maybe some of these people, I've watched their babies grow up, they're watching my babies grow up, they're gonna read it. And that was just going to be it. But now I'm at a place where a few years ago, I took my family, we went to Disneyland, and when we were checking into the hotel, someone stopped my husband and asked him, "Are you Christina's husband?"
Wow.
I was in the car. He went to go check into the hotel, and so we're in Florida, and people have that level of recognition, and it's really cool. It's really cool to have come from a place where it was just something to do, to now this is what I wake up and do every day. This is what I fall asleep thinking about. This is what helps pay the bills. This is what my friends, my kids' friends, ask, "Hey, is your mom still writing books?" I had a thing in the local newspaper here. It's crazy.
So for a up and coming author, or author who's just starting out like me, myself and I, what advice would you give somebody besides the typical just write cliche.
Don't just write. Focus on developing your voice and developing your craft and developing your work. Something that I've been really conscious of lately is it's like you should have confidence in your ability to do something. Like that's important. And it's important to, even sometimes when when you're uncertain or insecure, to work through that. But you don't want that confidence to become arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even talking about externally, I'm talking about internally. You don't want to think that you've reached the place where you don't have any further growing to do in your craft, because we all have further growing to do in our craft. Like you can always be improving your character development. You can always be working on setting the scene better. You can always be working on pulling more depth out of your plot lines. Like there's always something that all of us could be constantly doing to better our craft. And it's not enough to just write. Like that's the start of it. Like that's at the base. Like yes, just write, keep writing, but have that awareness of where you can improve. Don't let those places where you can improve stop you from publishing, or stop you from, finishing things, or stop you from putting things out. But for everything you finish, you need to be saying, okay, I finished this, and I got it done. But when I look at this, or even, when other people look at this, they're saying that it felt shallow. Okay. So in this next thing that I do, I'm going to work on that. Okay. I worked on this. Now they're saying, this or that, or now I'm looking at it and I feel like, my pacing is off. So in the next thing you write, you work on your pacing. It's just a thing of never being, I'm trying to think of what word I want to use, but never being so convinced of your own greatness that you think that you don't have any improvement that you can make, because that's just not true.
Ooh, that's a verse right there. That's a bar.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely a bar. Because I feel like sometimes when people do have, the amount of work that you have, a lot of
mm-hmm.
people get stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of them like challenging themselves to, further development, they were like, all right, well, if my audience likes this, then I'm just going to continue to write like this. And then when you do have some people that aren't your core fan, like, your core fans, be like,
Mm-hmm.
I read your work, but it's kind of sounding redundant. It kind of sounds the same. Instead of them being like, oh, okay, I need to work on this, you'd be like, well, obviously you're not a true fan, and this and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And then you got their core fans, hating on the person who made the comment when it's, it's just their opinion.
Well, so I feel two ways about that. On one hand, I understand it, but on the other hand, like, yes, that's just their opinion. And my opinion might be, okay, so you could go kick rocks.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to be here.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I think there's a balance to it, because I am very much, I wrote what I wrote, and anybody who doesn't like it, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Don't read it. But internally, I think that drive to get better has to come from within self. Mm-hmm. It's not about what, what reviews say, or about what this person who doesn't usually read your work thinks, or about what the readers who usually read your work think. It's not about that. It's not about whether you're still satisfying your fans. It's about you respecting the craft, and you respecting yourself enough to say, I can keep getting better at this. The people who support me deserve for me to keep growing.
Yeah.
The people who, who have been with me since day one, I have people who I think my next release is going to be like number 80 or something like that, close to it, 70 something, like over 75. I have people who have read every single one of those things. People who read the first one when it first came out to the release 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I hope that when they look at my work,
you see the girl.
It doesn't look the same as that first project.
Yeah.
I want them to always see the growth. I look for that in the comments from my betas. They don't know that, and I hope none of them. I hope none of them hear this. But I like my ears are tuned for that. For if they, if I get that comment, it doesn't have to be from everybody, because everybody just, even if they see it, they may not say it.
Yeah.
But I can really, I feel like you really pulled one out of the bag with this one. I really feel like you were in your bag with this one. I feel like this isn't like this took over, so-and-so spot in my top 5 for you. Like, that's what I want to see. I don't want somebody to have their top 5 favorite CCJ projects and it's all stuff from 5 years ago. If it's all stuff from 5 years ago, I'm not doing something right. Like, I understand, your first love and, like that. I definitely get that. But you want to continue impressing even the people who are already fans. But there's always going to be somebody who, who comes along, who wants to make sure that that they don't see the hype, that they don't get it, that they don't understand why people like you. And honestly, screw them. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? You're going to stop what you're doing and you're going to you're going to change everything about what you do because this person over here don't see the hype, while these 10 people over here are like, absolutely, I see the hype. I get it. Like, there's always going to be something like that. And it's not to say that you reject the idea that you need to grow, because you should not reject the idea that you need to grow. But criticism is simply somebody's opinion. Like, unless they're telling you, like, hey, you spelled this wrong, or hey, you'll never put question marks on the end of questions. Like, stuff like that, that's something that you definitely need to change. Everything else, honestly, is just their opinion. Now, some opinions, it might be valid. It's not saying that their opinion isn't valid, but it's absolutely only their opinion. It's not, it's not a definition. It's not a defining moment. So somebody saying, somebody coming along and say that they don't see the hype, it's like, what's their motivation? Like, are you like, you're upset because people got upset because you said you didn't see the hype. But what was your motivation in a comment like that? You know what I mean? And so being able to parse out, like being able to tune out that type of stuff, because I don't see the hype. It's not constructive criticism. It's just criticism. Something like, a lot of friends recommended this to me, but I felt like the story fell flat in this place and this place. And I would have loved to see more character development here and here. That's constructive criticism. That's the type of stuff where if somebody gets mad at you for saying that, then they're just being, you just don't want to hear anything against what you're trying to say. But you can't like, a lot of people, especially on the internet, are just critical. There's nothing constructive about it. They're just critical. And the people who are constructively critical are honestly, in 2021, I feel like they're few and far between. And so you have to be able to tune that out and not rely on that to be, because I did that. Like, in the beginning, I don't really read my reviews anymore. Like, I'll read reviews that people like put on, like, like Bookstagram and stuff like that. Like, if I'm tagged in it, I'll read it, because it was obvious that they were, they wanted me to see it, and I want to share it, especially if it's a Black creator, I want to share it. I want to put them in other people. But as far as like going onto Amazon, going onto Goodreads to read my reviews, I don't do that because there's nothing, I'm either going to feed my ego or I'm going to feed that self-critical voice. And I don't need either of those things right now. You know what I mean? In the very beginning, I would consume my reviews and I would take the low ratings. I would take it so much to heart. I would take it and I would obsess over it. And it was a double-edged sword because I got very good at what I did very fast because I was obsessing over these reviews. Mm-hmm. You said you had one time to say that about me in this review. You'll never be able to say it about me again. The next time you read my work, you'll never be able to say Christina doesn't develop her characters. You'll never be able to say this. You'll never, whatever it was, you'll never be able to say that again. And the result of that, it worked in my favor, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good for my self-esteem as a writer. It wasn't good, it wasn't good for my confidence as a writer. It offered a very skewed view because it would be different if I took the 1 stars to heart and also took the 5 stars to heart. It wasn't like that though. It was only the 1 stars, and the 5 stars, they must be lying. Like they must be just making stuff up.
You are speaking to me right now. Oh my God.
So it's like, I feel like there's a way that you can approach it in a balanced manner. I feel like there is a healthy way to engage with reviews, but historically, I have not been able to healthily engage with them. And so I don't. I do still want people to leave them because they're helpful for other readers, because there might be, certain trigger warnings that I miss saying, or even if somebody hated the book, they might hate the book for similar reasons that somebody else might hate the book. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to hate it too, please read them negative reviews so you don't even bother me. So you already know you're going to hate it for the same reasons that person over there hated it. So, or you might love it for the same reasons, that these people loved it. And so I want people to leave them, because it is helpful, but I don't engage with my reviews at all anymore.
You're speaking to me because when I released my first book, I got so many, like a mixed review, especially like the 2 and 1s. And it was just like, granted, it was because of editing, which was, understandable. But it was just like, well, I see the potential, but and I was just like, I remember seeing that. I was like, it was my first review. It was like a 2-star. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I quit. Like, oh my God. I cried. But I was just like, am I doing it right? And I think for me, it's like, granted, I do have like, before I took it down, I did have like a 5-star review that said it reminded him of a TV show that I love. And I was just like, oh, thank God. But at the same time, I think now that since I am writing again, it's just like that internal thing is just like, all right, is this good enough? So I'm sending it to like my close friends, like, hey, can you read this real quick for me to see if it flows? And then they call me back. It's like, if you don't finish this damn book, like, you sure? I said, if you don't finish this book, we're gonna have some problems. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I think for me, it's just like being confident in my work, knowing that, okay, I don't know how this is going, but instead of finishing it, I stop, which lasts longer. And I said, I hold a whole new project and I like it. I'm like, I don't really like how that looks either. So I stop and finish another project. So I think for me, I have to like stick to one thing, finish it. Send it to my editor, send it to my beta readers, and let them be like, all right, I'm asking you to be a beta reader because I need your honest opinion. You're not sure anything. Be honest with me. All right, well, I like how this goes, but I don't like how that character said that or this and this and that. All right, then I'll go back, fix it, and then send it to my editor. So I think for me, it's more so like still a self-confidence thing that I'm still trying to work with my writing. So
and I feel like a lot of times we're not the best judges of our own writing, because I definitely, for the majority, well, not the majority, but for a good amount of Prior Affair, like I was talking to my friends like, this sucks, this is so whack, this is so boring,
Mhm.
you know, so on and so forth. And they were like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, it sucks. And they were like, it doesn't though. Like, just keep writing. And I did. And it's so crazy that I even thought that about it, because when I read it, you know, once I did my read through, I didn't see any of what I saw at the time that I was writing it. And so having those betas and people who can kind of pull you back to reality when that, you know, when that critical inner voice is telling you that it's not good enough, like, I feel like that's a really vital part of this process for us.
Yeah, but I was just like, oh, okay, I can't. For me, I think my main thing was just like, when I told my mom about this, because me and my mom had a conversation, she was asking me about my book, and I was just like, I like it, but I don't think it's good enough. And she was just like, so are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing it for the readers?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I'm doing it for myself. It's like, okay, if you're doing this for yourself, then just finish it. Because
Mm-hmm.
Nicole Foster, when I interviewed her, she was just like, once your book is out, it no longer belongs to you.
Yep.
It belongs to everybody else.
Yep.
So you can't keep thinking about that one book. You have to keep going with writing.
Yep. Keep moving forward. Because I'm going to tell you, you're never going to write a perfect book. That's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to happen. None of us are ever like, none of us are ever going to write a perfect book. But you can't get any closer to it by not finishing anything.
Yeah.
You can't meet your readers by never releasing anything. You can't find out what your strengths are, what's going to keep pushing you forward, if you're stuck on trying to make something perfect. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something else you could have done. And so you have to let that go. You have to let that go. There's this saying that perfection is the enemy of completion, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not exactly what it is. I can't think of what it is, but it's the idea that this desire to try to get things perfect flies directly, it's in direct opposition to us being able to get anything done.
Yeah.
And I would often tell people that I feel like the best kind of sandpaper to kind of smooth out the edges is publishing, and it is getting those reviews. Like, I don't have to look at reviews anymore, but I'll never say that looking at those reviews in the beginning, I'll never say that hurt me. Or, well, let me rephrase that. I'll never say that it did more harm than good, because it built up my skin, for being able to hear them. And it taught me that valuable lesson that there's always some place that you can improve.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be people who love what you do right out of the box. There's going to be people that see the potential if you develop this, or if you develop that, or if you worked on this or worked on that, but you'll never know. How will you know if you never put it out there, if you never make it available for anybody? So you have to push through that feeling of it not being good enough, because the fact that you keep trying, the fact that you keep pushing, tells me this is not just a cute hobby. Like, this is something that you want to do. It's a passion. And the last thing you want to do is sit on that and never let it become what it could be, because you were trying to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. That's to you and everybody else.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. I take it and I receive it in my spirit, for sure. Well, I have one more book that I haven't read yet, but I did go ahead and brought it because of the bisexuality that's in here. And
something like love.
September is Bisexual Visibility Month, Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, I am a bisexual woman. So I need to know exactly what made you do this book.
Okay.
It's something like Love, the Secondaries Love, Book 6.
Yeah.
Because from reading the comments, both characters are bisexual.
Yes. And I did get some very weird commentary about how I made them both straight because there is a male and female character and they end up together. And I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. Like,
No.
I'm not a queer woman, but I don't think that's how it works. Like, I did a whole lot of research.
For me, I tell you my story. I came out as bisexual back in July of 2020. So like the height of Corona.
So pretty recently,
Yeah, recently, yeah. I always knew I was, but I was very scared because of family and friends and most of my family. But when I told them, they were very receptive of me. And
that's good.
Very receptive. My friends were just like, okay, Ann. My brother was just like, okay, Ann. So I was very receptive of it. So I think when it comes to bisexuality, because I haven't been with a woman yet, people just think it's a phase, which it's not. Definitely for this, even though I haven't read it, just because they're together does not mean they're not bisexual anymore.
Right, which I was like,
I think it's kind of stupid. And I think that's the gist of bisexuality. Yeah. A lot of people think that, oh, if it's a woman and she likes other females, if you don't see her dating somebody, oh, she's just bi-curious. No. If you see a guy dating a man and then he also dates women, oh, well, automatically people think he's gay. No.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
yep. So Eddie gets introduced in A Crazy Little Thing Called Love. And he was supposed to be the second book in that series. But he ended up being the last book in that series because I was scared to write him. Because I was scared of what the reception to him was going to be. Not necessarily because I was scared that anybody would read it or anything like that, but I tend to get very like protective of my characters. And just from different comments that, were made over the years, when I would mention, potentially telling his story, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I was like, I'm not even going to do this because if somebody says something crazy, like I'm going to
go off.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up saying something I don't have any business saying. There will be a lot of people, well, I would never date Eddie. Like, well, sis, would Eddie date you? It's like he don't want you. He wants Astrid. Like he wants his heroine. It's not about whether or not you would date him or whether or not you would want him in real life. I'm telling people's stories. And that's really what it was. And ultimately, I ended up deciding that I can't let that deter me from telling this story that has been on my mind for so long, this story that has been on my heart for so long. I'm just going to do, I'm going to read as many articles and read as many, people's personal experiences and all of that as I can so that I can treat their identities with care, because something that I write a lot of characters, or the vast majority of my characters are not like me, and so no matter what makes those differences up, I don't ever want someone who is just like that character or who does have those similarities. I don't ever want them to read it and be hurt by the way I portrayed that character.
Yeah.
I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel, and not just seen, but respected and embraced. Like, no matter what it is. Like, I have characters who have prosthetics, characters who, have chronic diseases, characters who, have struggled with certain illnesses, different sexualities, different like skin conditions, like all over the map. And when people inbox me, when people who do share those commonalities with those characters, inbox me and say thank you, because I've never felt represented like this, in a romance novel. And I treasure this. And thank you for, for the obvious care that you took. And thank you for, or even people who don't at all relate, but say thank you for opening my eyes to something like this. That, like, those are the type of compliments that, not that all compliments, don't make me feel good, but those type of compliments really mean the world, because to me, it's not enough to just toss a character of a certain identity in your work just to be able to say that your work is diverse, or that, everybody is represented. I don't have, like, those are the queer, those, I have not had queer characters come back to me since then. I'm open to it, but I just have not had any. And I'm not going to just write some for the sake of saying, well, yeah, my work is diverse, because I feel like there's enough creators of those identities writing that work that if you're looking for that, we can point you to them. I'm not going to write something just to be able to say, well, yeah, I've got this in my catalog, or, whatever else. Like, there have been times when that particular book, has been listed, along with books by other queer creators, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I appreciate the inclusion, but I try to make sure that I say, like, I appreciate the inclusion, but if you pick this book over a book from, someone else who actually shares this identity, this is not my spot. That's their spot.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be taking up space that does not belong to me. But at the same time, I'm not going to not write that story when I could write it and I can just take up my space. I don't have to take up anybody else's space. I can just take up mine. But when I do write it, it's not going to be like I'm going to give it my all, and I'm going to do as much as I can, to make sure that, like I said, that if someone else picks this up who is, who relates with this character, they're going to feel respected. They're going to feel cared for. They're going to feel seen. And it's not just going to be pandering, which I think is almost like an epidemic these days. Like, we're just gonna, we're just gonna do it to say we did it. Like, I don't do that for any other part of my work. And I certainly don't want to do it with something as important as people's identities.
That is amazing. I'm definitely planning to probably start, because I did say I was going to start this book like as soon as I got it, but life happened. So I think I am going to probably start this book soon, because I have two characters, both heroines. One of them you do meet in my coming book. She's the sister of my heroine in that book, and she's bisexual. But she's more of a very, this is who I am, you like it, you don't, this and that. Her love interest is somebody that just came out, and she's still trying to figure out herself, even though that her brother and her father accept her, it's her mother who doesn't. So I was supposed to write that since like last summer, but it was in my head, didn't write it. So I do plan to write that out, hopefully probably like sometime next year. Probably by
whole schedule.
Probably I have an entire schedule, like an entire list of books I want to like come out with. So that book probably would be out probably Pride of next year for sure.
That'd be really cool. I'll be looking for it.
Yeah. So.
Since you said it.
Yeah.
We're holding you to
it. I already started it. I think I got like 3 chapters so far before I shelved it. So yeah, because for me, when it comes to writing, like, I could be in the shower, I could be driving, I could be at work, and out of nowhere, boom, 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 characters come out of my head. I have like a whole scene for them. So yeah, so I have an entire list that I do want to come out with. Like I said, but the sports romance one is first. Like I said, you got the one I told you about, and then I have another one who's a single father. It's kind of like not like a huge age difference, like Sloan and Nate, but there's an age difference.
A little bit of an older man, younger woman,
Yeah.
or older woman, younger man.
Older man, younger woman. And then I have a athletic trainer thing that I have coming, like kind of like I really can't say like one night stand because they knew each other in college, but they weren't really that much friends type thing. So I have that series, and then I have my own series that I kind of doing a lot of retelling, like 3 retellings of like like 2 modern day fairy tales, another one's like kind of like a Greek goddess type thing, and then The Love is Love, which is the title of that bisexual book, and then probably I want to end it with my first book, Close to You, to be re-released.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's my list for the rest of my
you got some stuff to do.
growing career. I have a lot to do, but what can we expect before we leave out of here? What can we expect for you for the rest of the year and continuing?
I am still looking forward to working out to introducing some new things in different formats, different ways to engage with me in terms of like merch and stuff like that. I'm doing some exploration of some different stuff with that, looking at some different content avenues, actively working through that. I can't say a lot. I can't say much because I don't want to get ahead of myself with any of it, but definitely have some new stuff on the horizon. I'm not actively writing anything yet. I was actively writing something, and then I kind of lost my I overworked it in my mind. And so I'm going to have to put it down and walk away from it and come back to it later. But I do have something that I am forcing myself not to overthink. I've been wanting to go back to romantic comedy for a while. I've not written, I've not had a funny release all year. And it's time. And so I'm looking forward to something where I can just write down whatever craziness is on my mind and just have a ton of fun with it is what I'm looking forward to. And so I've just said a whole lot of nothing because everything that I have for the rest of the year, like I kind of have to keep it under wraps until it's
that makes sense.
For sure ready.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Well, Christina, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
It was really fun. Guys, I hope you got a lot of gems because I did. And like I said, once again, I'm very blessed that she's here. All her information to her Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff will be on the links below. My stuff will be links below as well. And until next time, read what you love and write what you want to read. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Da 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 da.